So let's talk about text files or file handling. This is for Cambridge 0478 syllabus and 9618 syllabus. So the main reason, or whenever we're talking about files, we're talking about the use of text files or the use of files in programs, or whenever we're talking about programming, we might need to make use of text files or just files. And to better understand this, we might have a picture like this. Whenever we are running a program, suppose we created a program, whenever we are running it, this program will be operating in the RAM of the computer. And RAM is primary storage. Since it is primary storage and it is RAM, it is known to be a temporary storage. Information is not going to be stored permanently when it is running in the RAM. So any variable or any data that we are entering whilst the program is running is being stored in the RAM. And when we just close that program, that information is going to be lost. So we want to try to avoid to lose the data that we were entering when we were running the program. So what do we do now? We have to transfer all the information or all the variables or the data that we were collecting whilst we were running the program and store it now in a text file. So a text file now will not be stored in the RAM, but will be stored in the secondary storage of the computer. So we can talk about SSD or HDD on that. So we're talking about the part of storing information now in the secondary storage. And as we all know, secondary storage is advantageous over RAM because it stores information permanently. So we are saying we are making use of files because we want to permanently store data. So if a question comes asking you for the reasons why we are using text files in programming, it's because we want to store information permanently. Information that will be collected whilst the program is running will be transferred to the text file for it to be stored permanently. And another reason, again, why we might be using text files is because it is easy to transfer information that is now in a text file than the information that we were collecting in the program. So information collected during the program runtime is going to be stored in a text file, and the text file can easily be transferred from one computer to the next. Right? So those are some of the reasons why we are actually going to be using text files whenever we're talking about programming. That having been said, we need to talk now about the key operations that we are going to be seeing whenever we are making use of files. Number one is open. And open is a keyword that we will use whenever we want to make use of a file. We open a file for different reasons. So before we start to do anything to the file, we first need to open it. So one key operation that you're going to be finding, or one key function that you're going to be finding whenever we're making use of files, is open. And open just makes the file accessible for different options. And whenever we open a file in different modes. It can be opened for the purposes of reading it. It can be opened for the purposes of writing to it, or we can open a file for the reasons of appending to it. Appending and writing are more or less like the same operations, but append, it adds on top of the information that is in an already existing file. So we're adding to the top. Whenever we're appending, we're adding on top, right? But whenever we're talking about writing, we are replacing whatever that was in the file, or we are creating a new file. When we are reading, we are getting information from the file to the text, from the file to the code. This is when we are reading. And as you can see, we are taking information from outside of the code into the program. So that operation is an input operation. Whenever we are reading data from a text file into the code, we are reading. We are actually carrying out an input operation. Then whenever we are actually writing or appending, we are removing information from the program to the text file. So whenever we are writing, we are replacing. Whenever we are appending, we are adding on top. Both of these operations now are known as output operations, simply because we are removing information from the program to the text file. That's basically what you need to know on that. And every opened file, it's supposed to be closed at the very end of the day. And an operation of closing, as far as writing is concerned and as far as appending is concerned, helps you now to save all the information that you are writing to the text file. If you fail to close the file that you had opened, whilst you are writing or appending, it means that all the information that you are writing to the text file will not be saved. So you wouldn't have done any much good to yourself, because you will still lose all the information that you're writing to the file, even though you wrote it to the file. So a close operation works as a saving operation. It saves all the contents written to the file, right? Written to the file. That's basically what you need to know about a close operation. So always know that whenever you open something, you close it. And whenever you open something, you may open it for one of these reasons: for reading, for writing, or for appending. That's basically the knowledge that you need to know as far as files are concerned. With that having been said, let's just go ahead and actually just summarize all this now into one picture. So if we clear all this, you'll see that these are the different operations that you're going to be seeing. So if I remove this and place it over here, or let me just put it on top here, this is the key operation. This is the key operation, and this is the pseudocode, right? This is a pseudocode statement for it, and this is an example of a Python operation for it. So we are saying whenever we are open, we are using the operation of open. In pseudocode, we use the keyword open file, then we name the file that we want to open, and we give the reason. This is the mode, the reason why we are opening it. It can either be for read, for write, or even for append, as you can see here. So if we are opening, we use keyword open file. We put again the name of the file to be opened. The name, let's just say it is the file name. So open file followed by the file name, then followed by the mode. That's basically what's going to be happening again on here. Close, when you're closing the file, you use the keyword close file, then you specify the file name that you're closing. Then when you're doing that in Python, you're just going to be using file. You will need now a variable that's going to be storing the operation that you're going to be doing. You're opening the file for the reasons of reading. If you want to write to the file, you're going to be opening the file for the reasons of W. Instead of putting R, you're going to be using W for write. If you're appending, you're going to be using A. So W is for writing. So when you're closing the file, you just say file.close in Python. When you want to write now in pseudocode, you now say, when you want to read, you say read file as a keyword. Read file, this is the file that you're reading from, comma, then you put the variable that is going to store the contents that you're reading from the file. So what you have read from the file are going to be stored in here. So this is the variable to store the contents read from the file. To store the contents, let's just say file data, to store the file data. So everything that is in the file fruit.txt is going to be stored in line of text. That's the same thing that's happening again on write file. Whenever you want to write to a file, you open the file for the reasons of you open a file, you give us the name of the file for the reasons of writing, then use write to that file, you give the name of the file again, and this is the text to be written to the file. So this is the file text this is the information that you're going to be writing to the file. So it's the file data. So it might be in a variable, or it might be the exact data already that you want to write to the file. Either way is still okay. So just know that write file followed by the name of the file that you are writing to, and then you need again to put the information that you're writing just after the comma. Same thing that's happening with append. Remember, we said whenever we are appending to a file, we open a file for the reasons of appending. We are adding to the file. There is no operation that is called append file. You will still be writing to the file. So these can also come here. But the key difference between this operation and this operation is that whenever we are writing to the file, after we have opened it for append, we are going to add on top of the already existing information. But when we are writing to a file, for the reasons of, whilst we had opened the file for writing, we are going to replace whatever that is in the file that is called fruit.txt. I hope that is understandable. So when you are now in Python, we're going to be using file.close to close the file. We are going to be just mentioning file without repeating the name of the file, because when we opened the file, we stored this opened file inside the variable that is called file. So when we say file.close, it means that we are closing this specific what? This specific file. Even when we say file.readLine, we are reading from this specific file, because file here is handling all that. So this needs to be stored, of course, in a variable. So we can actually say line of file. In actual fact, we will be like line of text, like this variable to store the contents, is equal to, we go ahead and read from the file.readLine. So we will read information from the file, then we will store it in line of text. When you're writing to the file, we just say file.write, and we mention what we want to write. When we want to open a file for append, the only thing that is differing is this part. I hope that made sense as far as the key operations in pseudocode and also in Python. Let's just go ahead and answer one question quickly, and then we conclude this part. So we'll clear this, then we will just answer this question real quick. So they're saying that what the function length x calculates the length of a string x. So write a pseudocode statement to allow a line of text to be input to an appropriate variable. So maybe I just want to have this stored in a line of text. So my variable is going to be called line of text, like this. Then store this line of text in a file that is called main. So I need to open this file, then close it again and write this to that file. Calculate the length of the line of text and output the text in lowercase. So this is for the length, number one, and again we need to output in lowercase. Along with the length, we're going to be writing this in the same sentence. Then again, they are now saying that store the lowercase line in the text file called lower.txt. So this is another file that is going to be opened. So I already saw that I'm going to be opening two files, one that is called main.txt and the other one that is called lowercase.txt. So let's start with the first command, line of text. So line of text is going to be storing something, so I need to declare it first. So I'll first put in the part of declaring it. So I'll declare line of text, line of text. I'll declare that as a string, because we're going to be storing information that is in the form of a string. Then here I'm seeing that I will need to calculate the length of the text. So I can actually go ahead and declare again the length of the text. So I can just call it text length. Text length for, and that's going to be an integer. This is what I'm going to be doing. So the first thing, I'm going to be allowing the input to be coming from the user. So I'll use my keyword input. I might need to just change the color on that. So I'll call the user to input. So I'll be like input. Then I'll ask the user to enter a line of text. Line of text like this. Then we go ahead and store it in a variable that is called line of text, like that. Then the next thing that I want to do is to store the line of text in the file that is called main.txt. So I need to go ahead and actually convert and open the file that is called main.txt. So I'll use open file, like what we agreed. Open file, and open file will open the file that is called main.txt for the reasons of writing to the file. So when we have opened it, they are now telling us that we need to store this element here, this variable here. So we will be now like write file. So write file, you go ahead and write in the file that is called main.txt, and what you're writing is the line of text. Line of text. Then once we're done with that, then we can go ahead and close the file. So close file. Close file. The file that we are closing is called main.txt. The next line, they are now telling us that to calculate the length of the line of text. So I can go ahead and say text line. I can change again that, and I can say text length. Text length, I go ahead and store that, and I use the key function that they already told me that is called length. So length, we'll go ahead and take line of text as my parameter, line of text. So we now have the length of the line of text stored in text length. At the very end of the day, they told me again, output the text in lowercase alongside with the length. So I can just go ahead and say output. And what I'm outputting is in lowercase. So I'm going to be using lcase now for that. Lcase is a function that takes in a string line of text. Then it goes ahead and converts that into lowercase. Then I need to be outputting that together alongside with the length of the text. So text length like this. This is going to be outputting exactly that. So your task now that I want you to do is, I want you to go ahead and store the line of text in lower cases. Store the lowercase line of text in a text file called lowercase.txt. So you're pretty much doing exactly like what I did here. You open the file. For the reasons of writing, you go ahead and write the lowercase part. So you can write it like this, or you might need to put it in a variable first. Either way is still okay. Then don't forget to close the file once you've opened it. Okay, you can just go ahead and write that last part and send it straight up to me. Then we can talk about it. Thank you.